Hey y'all, it's Luigi. Welcome back to my video. Today's video, we're gonna do another Series 9 build a team with me for VGC. And today, the team is gonna be based around making Wishiwashi a serious special attacking sweeper threat. So if you wanna see how to do that, stick around. Okie dokie, I am recording this video for the second time because I just sat here talking to myself for almost 45 minutes with no microphone attached. So bear with me here. The team's already been kind of built out, but I'm going to go through the Pokemon one by one to talk to you again about what I did here. So first up, we've got Wishiwashi. Wishiwashi's ability is schooling, and this means that if its HP is higher than 1/4 of its max HP, it gets the schooled form instead of the solo form. Now, if you look at the solo form, you can see that its stats are actually not great at all. It's got fairly low base HP, and all of its other stats are quite poor as well. But if I were to switch this to the schooling form, which it says it's illegal, just bear with me here. If we switch it to the schooling form, you can see that its stats are much better. Its HP and its speed are both unchanged, but its attack, defense, special attack, and special defense stats are way better. And you can actually see that its attack and special attack stats are tied, meaning you could run this either as a physical attacker or a special attacker. We're choosing to run it as a special attacker because, one, a lot of people when they see Wishiwashi assume it's going to be a physical attacker, so they'll put up things like reflect, or they'll try to burn you or intimidate you, and it doesn't really work if you're a special attacker. And two, there's a lot of intimidators and max steel spikes and a lot of like defense boosting, attack lowering Pokemon in the meta right now, so special attackers are actually really good right now. The item that we're going to run on Wishiwashi is weakness policy, and that's because Wishiwashi is so bulky and it can stick around for so long that it can make such great use of that weakness policy. So the moves we're going to use for its water stat moves are going to be both Muddy Water and Hydro Pump. This is kind of critical because one, Wishiwashi is so bulky it doesn't really need to protect very often at all. You don't get a lot out of it. Two, Muddy Water is really great when you're not Dynamaxed. You get the spread move, you get the potential for accuracy drops, things like that. Hydro Pump is better when you're Dynamaxed because Muddy Water as a Max Geyser Dynamax move only has a base power of 130, and Hydro Pump as a Max Geyser Dynamax move has a base power of 140. So while Wishiwashi is Dynamaxed, we want to be using this Hydro Pump slot, and then when we stop Dynamaxed, if Wishiwashi is still on the field, Muddy Water is a better move to go with. And then for coverage moves, we're going to use Ice Beam to deal with all those pesky flying types and Landorus Therians running around. And we're also going to use Mudshot. You may say, Luigi, why are we using Mudshot in VGC? The reason is because Ground is such a great coverage move, and when you Dynamax, Mudshot actually gains a base power of 110 as Max Quake, which is really not that terrible in the grand scheme of things. And once our special attack is +2, we've doubled our special attack, it actually does quite a bit of damage and can OHKO quite a few Pokemon. So it's great to have that coverage move there. Plus, on top of that, when we use Max Quake, we increase our special defense even further every time we use it. And then as far as stats go, we're going to want to maximize our special attack. Keep in mind we want 0 IVs on attack and also 0 IVs on speed, because what we're doing here is we're also building a Trick Room counter. Wishiwashi is actually quite slow, so I've come across a lot of situations where the opponent maybe doesn't even realize how slow Wishiwashi is. They set up Trick Room, and suddenly Wishiwashi is the fastest thing on the field, so they've kind of done themselves a disservice by setting up Trick Room for me. We don't really have anything in particular that we're trying to EV Wishiwashi to survive against. There are a lot of things we could do, maybe Grassy Glide from Rillaboom, Thunderbolt from Rotoms, or Alecki, but I don't really know exactly what I would EV against, so I'm just going to go for max HP with the rest of my EVs and then put the rest in defense. As for the nature, we're going to do plus special attack minus speed so that this is an even better Trick Room counter. And then our Wishiwashi is done. Now, we have this weakness policy Wishiwashi. We need some way to activate the weakness policy. And especially, we need some way to activate weakness policy that's not weak to Fake Out. Because Whimsicott could use a move like Absorb or something, right? But Whimsicott is weak to Fake Out. So instead, what we're going to use is Comfey, and Comfey has the great ability Triage. Triage means that a Pokemon's healing moves have a +3 priority. Now, Comfey has access to moves like Giga Drain. Giga Drain is a healing grass-type move, which means with Wishiwashi and Comfey on the field, I can use my +3 Giga Drain to activate Weakness Policy, and unless a Fake-Out user is faster than my Comfey, they can't stop it. The opponent could maybe use Follow Me, that way Comfey is forced to use Giga Drain on that Follow Me user instead of my Wishiwashi. Follow Me's priority is +3, the same as Fake Out and the same as Giga Drain, so that Follow Me user would have to be faster than my Comfey in order to successfully redirect the Giga Drain. Now, we want Comfey to stick around as long as possible so that we can keep Wishiwashi healthy and support it with Helping Hand and maybe some ally switch. So what we want to do is give it leftovers to help it survive just a little bit longer. As far as the moveset goes, we need the Giga Drain to activate Weakness Policy. We're going to add Helping Hand so that we can give Wishiwashi just as much power as we possibly can. Ally Switch can help us dodge moves that would otherwise be OHKO. So for example, Thunderbolt from Alecki basically OHKOs Wishiwashi, but if we use Ally Switch, then that Alecki is really just attacking Comfey, and then we can hit the Alecki with a Max Quake and not really have to worry about taking that hit. And then last, we're going to use Floral Healing so that we can keep Wishiwashi as healthy as possible. Remember, if Wishiwashi's HP drops below 1/4, it loses its schooling form, and at that point, it's basically useless. It's just a sacrifice Pokemon. As far as stats go, we want our leftovers to do as much work as possible with the least amount of EV investment. So what we want is we want this number right here, our HP number, to be divisible exactly by 16. So we could max HP, but if you see here, 158 divided by 16 is not an even number. We want this to be divisible by 16 exactly. So we're going to drop it down. So we're only going to put 148 EVs into HP. This way, we're getting the maximum amount of recovery from the leftovers without having to put too much EVs into HP. Because remember, leftover recovery is 1/16 of your maximum health, and that rounds down. So if I put any more EVs into HP, I'd be getting more HP, but I wouldn't get any more recovery every turn with leftovers. It's best to put enough EVs in here so that your HP stat is perfectly divisible by 16 and put the rest into either defense or special defense. So we're going to do that. We're going to put 140 into HP, we're going to put 140 into defense, and we're going to put the rest into special defense. And then for our nature, we're going to use bold. So we're going to boost defense just a little bit more, and we're going to do minus nature on attack so that we get as little damage as possible from moves like Foul Play and Confusion. And then these next three Pokemon, we've used before on previous Series 9 teams, but this is our Eject button Whimsicott. We run the item Eject button, the ability Prankster, and we have kind of a standard moveset, you know, Tailwind, Taunt, Moonblast, so that if you get taunted or you end up with an Assault Vest on your Whimsicott, you can still use a move. And then Switcheroo is the move that allows us to put an Eject button onto an opposing Dynamax Pokemon, hit it with a move from our partner Pokemon, and then they kind of get ejected out of the game and they can't use their Dynamax anymore. As far as stats go, max speed, obviously, timid nature, so that we're the fastest Whimsicott in the world. This is super critical because every Whimsicott runs this speed stat, and if you have anything less than maximum speed on your Whimsicott, you will always be outsped by opposing Whimsicotts. Whereas if you have max speed, then at least you have the speed tie. You have the chance that you'll be the first Whimsicott to move. Now, a lot of people maybe run max special attack on Whimsicott, but we're really not going to be attacking very often with this Whimsicott, so I'd rather run max HP so that there's kind of the chance that we'll live a hit that we normally wouldn't live, and then even if we get pulled out of the game with Eject button, we still have our Whimsicott in the back so that we can refresh that Tailwind if we need to later in the game. And then up next is our lovely Landorus Therian. There's not a ton to say about this Pokemon. He's pretty fast, he hits hard. We run Life Orb so that he hits any harder. We run Intimidate because that's the only ability we have access to. The moveset is pretty standard too. Protect, Fly, Earthquake, Rock Slide. Rock Slide gives great coverage. Fly and Earthquake are great stab moves. Airstream and Quake are great Dynamax moves. And then as far as the stats go, max speed, max attack. This Pokemon's already fast and hits hard, so we're just going to increase that a little bit more. There's not a lot of reason to put bulk on Landorus, and you really do need max speed on Landorus because there are a lot of Pokemon in the 156 speed tier. namely things like Glarion Moltres. Glarion Moltres runs 156 speed, so when you're coming up with your Landorus T against an opposing Glarion Moltres, it's really critical that you can outspeed them so that you can get that max airstream up first, and then your partner gets to move next, and then the Moltres uses their airstream to counter yours. Next up, Glarion Darmanitan. We love a good Glarion Darmanitan. The ability Guerrilla Tactics is great. It increases your attack by 1.5 times, but it works kind of like a choice item, so you can only use the move that you select first when the Pokemon is out on the field. Now, you can change the move you're using if you pull the Darmanitan out of the field and then put it back on. You can pick a new first move, but as long as it's on the field, you can only use the move that you picked first. Now, that means that your item should be either a choice band or a choice scarf. Glarion Darmanitan is already pretty fast. It's 161 speed, which is just barely slower than Urshifu. And with Tailwind and max airstream support, Darmanitan's going to be outspeeding a lot of things. So we're better off using Choice Band here instead of Choice Scarf, so that Darmanitan can just really hit as hard as possible. The moveset here is fairly standard too. We go with Icicle Crash as our stab ice move. Brick Break is our fighting type move, and we use that specifically against opposing Grimmsnarls and Laprases that might be setting up screens that we would then want to break. U-turn is great because Darmanitan is pretty fast. If you come out with a bad matchup, meaning that the opposing Pokemon could probably just kill your Darmanitan in one hit, you can go ahead and use U-turn, get some damage off on the opposing Pokemon, and then be able to bring in your own Pokemon who would maybe be able to better weather those hits. And then finally, on the last team we built, we had Iron Head in this move slot, but I think it's better to use Flare Blitz instead because there are a lot of steel types in the meta right now, and there are a lot of Pokemon in the meta that are 4 times weak to fire, so things like Ferrothorn and Cortana. It's just super important to have fire coverage on your team, I think. As far as stats go, this is the same thing as Landorus T. It's already fast and strong, so we're just going to give it max speed, max attack, and a jolly nature so it can do as much damage as possible. And then finally, Cortana, we're going to use this one specifically to take care of things like Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini is really popular in the meta, and Cortana just really counters it very well. So Cortana is a very good Pokemon in the meta right now. We're going to use the item Assault Vest because Cortana's got a pretty weak special defense, and this will just help it live a few hits that it maybe otherwise wouldn't. The moveset we're going to use is Leaf Blade and Smart Strike for our Stab, Grass, and Steel moves. Sacred Sword is great because fighting coverage is great. It also ignores the target stat changes, so if your opponent is stacking up defense boosts with Max Steel Spike, you can use Sacred Sword to still do decent damage to them. And Night Slash is going to be our 4th Pokemon because there are a lot of Psychic types in the meta right now, specifically Metagross, and Night Slash is super effective against it. On top of that, Night Slash has a high critical hit ratio, so it's just kind of like a good all-around coverage move, I think. And then again, Cortana is fast and strong, so we're just going to max speed, max attack it, jolly nature, so that we can just get it to be peak fast physical sweeper here. So that's sort of the whole team. That's what we've got. I'm going to put a Pokepaste and a rental code in the description, so if you want to look at this team a little bit further, see exactly how we've built it, you can do that. And if you want to try it out yourself on cartridge, you can do that as well. So now we're just going to play a couple battles. We're just going to see how it goes, and I'll kind of commentate through them, talk about why I'm selecting the options I'm selecting and how the team is working, and we'll just kind of do a couple of example battles to see how the team works. So this one could be a couple of different leads. Indeedee is a great redirector, probably either Indeedee plus Hatterene to do Follow Me Trick Room, or maybe Venusaur plus Torkoal. I think the best lead for us here might be just Comfey Wishiwashi. We can put Darmanitan in the back to deal with screens, or Dragonite is 4 times weak to ice, so that'll be super great. I don't really want to bring Cortana, so I think Landorus might be a better option. Okay, so it is Venusaur plus Torkoal. I'm a little bit worried about sleep. So I think instead of proccing my weakness policy here, because Venusaur is going to be faster, I'm going to ally switch instead, and I'm going to go for a max hail on Venusaur. Okay, so we didn't have to worry about Sleep Powder. He's just going to immediately Dynamax and go for that Vine Lash. But he didn't hit my Wishiwashi because we used ally switch. Also, this is a fast Torkoal. It's faster than my Wishiwashi, which is quite interesting. But we've gotten rid of the sun now, so we can bring out Darmanitan and finish Venusaur off before it gets a chance to hit us. And now, because the sun is gone, Geyser will do more damage to the Torkoal. So we will Icicle Crash Venusaur, and we'll Geyser the Torkoal. So Eruption does take out Darmanitan, but we did take out the Venusaur, which was our biggest threat here. So now we have Wishiwashi plus Landorus against Dragonite and Lapras. So that's a little unfortunate, although... So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to Hailstorm the Dragonite, and then I'm going to fly on the Lapras, because I kind of expect the Lapras to just, like, Ice Beam my Landorus. Or the Dragonite will Ice Beam my Landorus. Okay, so we will lose our schooling after this, but I think it's okay. So now I'm just going to start going for Muddy Water here. I'm not really looking to deal damage per se to the Lapras, but if we can reduce its accuracy and get it to miss some moves, that would be like great. Freeze Dry on the Wishiwashi. That was actually a pretty bad move on his part. He should have gone for Landorus. My Wishiwashi was less of a threat to him than Landorus at this point. Yeah, I think an Earthquake should finish off this Lapras. And it does. So that's great. So that's kind of showing you how even if we don't proc weakness policy with Comfey, Wishiwashi can still do a lot of damage and be kind of great and useful because it just sticks around for so long and takes so many hits to take down. So this lead looks to me like a Politoed plus Kingdra lead. Kingdra gets Swift Swim in the rain. Because Landorus, Darmanitan, and Cortana kind of focus around being able to outspeed the opponent, it might be better for us to lead Wishiwashi Comfey, where it doesn't really matter if we're faster or not. Wishiwashi just soaks up hits. So we'll lead Wishiwashi Comfey. We'll put Darmanitan in the back, I think, and also Cortana. Okay, so he led Grim Kingdra, which is interesting. Either Grimmsnarl will do something here, or he'll switch in Politoed so that he can get that boost of speed. Maybe not, because he doesn't really need the boost of speed. I expect Kingdra to Dynamax here, okay? Water, so Kingdra is 4 times resistant to water. Ice is neutral, and so is ground. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to just Hailstorm for the added base power of the move. And we are going to proc our weakness policy here. Okay, so we did get taunted by Comfey, so it's a good thing we went ahead and procced our weakness policy. Well, maybe not, actually. Maybe we should have ally switched. So, at this point, maybe we'll go for a Quake on Kingdra if we can live another hit. And now Comfey can only use Giga Drain. So, we're just going to Giga Drain the Kingdra, do a little bit of damage. So, he did trick a Lagging Tail onto Wishiwashi, which doesn't matter because Wishiwashi's already slow. So he's kind of wasted his Lagging Tail. Wishiwashi will lose its schooling form, but we took down the Kingdra, which is like the biggest issue, right? We traded our Dynamax for their Dynamax. Okay, so we'll go for a Hailstorm onto Lando. I doubt they let us do that, but now he has to waste a turn killing my Wishiwashi instead of, focusing on... Oh, no. Instead of focusing on my Comfey. So let's send out Darmanitan here. We're gonna go for an Icicle Crash onto Landorus. That should kill, and then we'll go for a Giga Drain onto Grim. Continuing to just kind of like whittle them down with Giga Drain while we wait for the taunt to be up on Comfey. Okay, so you notice Grimmsnarl used Trick there, so Darmanitan no longer has its Choice Band. That means it will do less damage than it normally would. But the taunt is up on Comfey now, so now we can do a little bit of work. And they forfeit, so we get the win there. So this looks like a Trick Room team, potentially. It also might not. They might just lead Thundurus. I think our best bet here is going to be Comfey Wishiwashi. We'll put Darmanitan in the back, of course, and also Cortana. Okay, so it looks like they are going for the Trick Room mode, which is interesting because if you notice this, Glastier's minimum speed is 31, so is Wishiwashi's 31 speed. Its minimum speed is 31. So we're actually going to speed tie here regardless of whether or not we're in Trick Room. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and set up the rain. We'll proc our weakness policy and we'll go straight for Glastrier first because I don't really care if his Dusclops sets up Trick Room or not. Okay, so his Glastrier goes for Protect. Dusclops is probably going to set up Trick Room. Not the end of the world. We should do really good damage through Protect here. I mean, 30% is not bad. We would have killed if he hadn't protected. Now, Dusclops, if it has it, may use Haze to get rid of our stat increase. So we're going to use Geyser again, and I'm going to Helping Hand so that we're just doing as much damage as possible. I expect his Glastrier to Dynamax now and maybe go for a Knuckle to increase his attack. Okay, Dynamax from Glastrier. Comfey uses Helping Hand. It looks like the Dusclops used Rock Tomb on himself to proc weakness policy and lower his speed. So now Glastrier outspeeds me, but you can see that does very little damage, and now his Glastrier goes down. So that was an interesting little trick there. He used Rock Tomb to proc his own weakness policy, but also lower his speed. That way his Glastrier would for sure underspeed my Wishiwashi and go before me. But no matter. We're going to Geyser the Thunderous. We're going to Floral Healing the Wishiwashi, get it topped right back up, and we should be good to go here. Right, so this is kind of an example where setting Trick Room up didn't really help him very much. Because now my Wishiwashi is going before all of these opposing Pokemon, which could easily, I mean, that Thunderous, if it went before my Wishiwashi, you probably could have taken him out with a Wild Charge. Okay, so we're going to go for Muddy Water because it's got a higher accuracy here, and we're no longer in Dynamax. And again, we're just going to Floral Healing, top Wishiwashi right back up. Right, so that takes the Entei out. Almost kills the Dusclops too, so we should be good now. I'm actually going to go for an Ice Beam now instead of a Muddy Water or a Hydro Pump because these have very bad accuracy and Ice Beam is 100% accuracy. At this point, I don't really need the Stab or the Rain Boost because Dusclops should go down anyway. And I'm going to Helping Hand instead of Floral Healing because this Dusclops we've seen pretty much only has Nightshade, and we can take another Nightshade without going into our schooling form. So it doesn't matter. We win the battle, and I don't know if you noticed, but we didn't even need to use our two Pokemon in the back. Comfey and Wishiwashi kind of solo swept that entire team. So you can kind of see, like, Wishiwashi can be really great, especially when paired with Comfey. You just need to get a feel for when do I Giga Drain and activate my weakness policy? When do I need to Ally Switch to protect my Wishiwashi? When do I need to heal up? When is it safe for me to go for a Helping Hand to even further increase my damage output? I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it was helpful for you. Don't forget there's a rental code down below if you want to try this team out yourself on the cartridge in the game. And there's also a Pokepaste if you want to look at how the team has been built in Pokemon Showdown. Let me know in the comments down below how you liked this video. If you've got any questions, I'm always in the comments to answer them. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more like this. And I'll see y'all later. Bye!